Welcome, everyone. I'm excited you guys are here. I want to kind of get a feel for the room. So who has a plan to start a business now? Who has already started a business? And who doesn't plan to start a business? Okay, great. Perfect. That's all I need to know. Okay, so today we are talking about how to create a brand that connects with Generation Z. So Forbes tells us that by 2020, Gen Z will command nearly 40% of all consumer shopping. US Gen Zers outpace Millennials by 3 million, and they hold $44 billion in buying power. And that's why, for your brands to survive over the next few years, you need to create an authentic connection to the next generation. So before we kind of dive into what that looks like, I want to talk about who is Gen Z. So Gen Z is defined as the generation after Millennials. So although there's some argument over exactly when Gen Z starts, it's typically suggested that they're born anywhere from the mid-1990s to the 2000s. So some of these people are still children, but a lot of them influence their parents' spending, and some of them are starting to go into adulthood. They make up 25% of the US population, making them a larger cohort than the baby boomers and the millennials. And the history of Gen Z is really unique. So they're one of the only generations in our recent history to never know life without war. They also went through the recession with their parents losing a lot of their safety nets. And so this kind of creates an insecurity and an instability in their, kind of throughout the entire generation. And so they basically are left wondering why they should stay in boxes and why they need to be, do this and this and this to be successful. And so they're very intuitive and very experimental in how they move forward. They simply want more from life in general. Now, despite all that, they're not a weak generation, and they've adapted well to the fast-paced technology world and all the things that they're subjected to. But one thing we're seeing based on the studies coming out regarding them is that there's an overarching stat that they want palpable, real community. And that's something that's really valuable to them. So they have all the information. They know exactly how to get what they want as fast as they need it, but they don't have real relationships, and they want that to be a really palpable thing for them. An episode from one of our favorite Netflix originals, Master of None, illustrates this really well. In how they literally can have everything at the tip of their fingers, and how they strive for the best. So they spend the entire 30-minute episode looking for the best tacos in New York. And it's not just that they want good tacos or the closest tacos or the tacos that have a certain topping, but they want the best, what is the best tacos in New York. And so they use things like crowdsourcing and online reviews and blogs and all of those things. And so they find the best tacos. And this is the norm for Generation Z. They want to have the best thing that they can, and they want it in the way that is the most valuable for them. So all this points to the fact that Gen Z is looking for more from a buying experience. Not just ease and function and the value of the product, but they expect more from brands and businesses that they interact with. They tend to buy less, but they spend more. So they're focused more on quality instead of quantity. They look for brands that give back, make them feel purposeful, and they're quick to abandon brands for the next best thing. In talking to current parents of Generation Z, they describe their kids' Christmas lists as having less, but larger priced items on them. So they want to invest in better quality and less quantity, which is good news for high-end brands and high-priced products. So what does Gen Z value? Above all else, they value community, and how brands interact with, how the brands that they interact with can actually cultivate that community. They also value connection, how connected they feel to the product, to the services, to the people that also use the product and services, and they value influence. So how they're able to influence the people around them and how they're influenced by the people around them. So in this, they love to see partnerships happen with brands where they're participating in changing societal norms and challenging the culture of consumerism. According to one study by Ernst & Young, Generation Z has higher expectations of brands and retailers. If they don't feel appreciated, they move on to a competitor with little regard for brand loyalty. So as you can see, they're really longing to invest their time and energy into building a brand, but they have to earn it. And so brands should capitalize on enabling customer contribution. These days, everyone feels like an influencer. Whether they have a large following on social media or not, they want to be seen as someone who has good opinions about products and services. They want to be seen as an influencer regardless of how many people are actually following them or influenced by them. A survey conducted last year by digital agency Deep Focus found that 63% of Gen Zers prefer to see real people in ads versus celebrities. And according to Deep Focus, roughly 1/3 of US social media users ages 16 to 34, or roughly 25.5 million people, considers themselves a social creator or a social influencer. So let me read that again. Roughly 1/3 of US social media users ages 16 to 34 considers themselves a social creator or social influencer. Another interesting thing we're seeing, since they've been born into technology and they don't know any different, they easily see through marketing tactics and convoluted ad campaigns, or when advertisers are trying too hard to get them to sell their product. So therefore, they're less loyal, and they will jump to another company. Which brings me to my first action item for you to take note of today. We must define the core and purpose of your brand and make sure that it actually connects with your community. It's no longer about selling a product, but it's about building that know, like, and trust factor with your community. Now, this doesn't mean that you simply write a mission statement and then say you give to a charity and then call it a day. This means that you're actively engaging and listening to your community and what your brand exists for, which is at the root of it all. Like, our brands exist to help people, right? So we do this by building community, cultivating connection, and facilitating those influencers. So let's talk about how you can create a brand and a community that can really connect with your people. One of my longstanding clients, Dana Malstaff, has done this extremely well. She's known by both her name and her movement, Boss Mom. And Boss Mom exists to empower women who feel consumed by motherhood, running a household and marriage, and all the things that come along with being a woman, to have something that she can share with the world that is all of her own. Charles Revson, founder of Revlon Cosmetics, said that in the factory we make cosmetics, but in the store we sell hope. Dana sells confidence and freedom for moms, not courses and programs and coaching things that she's put together for them. And because of this, she's able to sell those things very easily and without effort. And that changes the power of her marketing when she's focused on building this community. In the same way, marketing in our own brand agency, we rarely talk about pixels or graphics or design or vectors or all the things that come along with that. But we talk about the benefits and we focus on those. So the time savings of hiring out marketing visuals and how we help equip our clients with graphics that actually attract their ideal clients. So these movements and values that we stand behind as brands then start to build a community of people focused on living and walking out that transformation. Once a community starts to form, you just have to give it a name, and it grows, just like Dana has done with Boss Mom. It's really the idea of getting on board with a mindset of community and then using that transformation to build that community. So nuts and bolts we'll get into a little bit later, but to give you an idea, we host these movements and these purpose-driven communities through Facebook groups or LinkedIn forums or other online forums. But it's the same values across the board. So no matter where you're hosting it, it's these same values that are portrayed across the movement. It's about cultivating an idea that your community can stand for and claim as their own that also lends towards buying your services and products. So it's about creating the perfect blend of community building as well as this product's going to actually help you continue in this transformation. So what does this mean for your brand? It means that your brand can have the best products, but if nobody cares about them or why you have them, nobody's going to buy them. So it's your job as a founder, as a startup, as an entrepreneur, to make your people care. Anthony D'Angelo says, without a sense of caring, there can be no sense of community. So you make them care by cultivating a community that knows, likes, and trusts you and your brand for the community building properties that it brings. And a note here, if you don't feel like you need to be the face of your brand, then you need to at least make sure that your team is able to cultivate that movement. A really great example of a brand doing this well is Nest Labs Incorporated. So I'm a busy mom, and I don't always get excited about tech products, except for this tech product, because I love it. And their tagline is "Create a Connected Home." Now, when I first saw this, I knew they weren't selling me a tech product, but they were selling me a better home experience. And as a mom, that's what really resonated with me. I consider myself mildly interested in tech, since that's what I use to run my business, but getting excited over a thermostat was never something that I thought would happen, until Nest came along. I remember seeing their commercials for the first time, and it was white walls and the mid-century furniture, and the mom was floating happily across the room to readjust her Nest so that her baby could be warm. And at that point, I didn't know much about the product or what the features were or why I needed it or how it saved me money, but I knew I wanted to be that mom. So I didn't buy Nest because of the features, although my husband would argue differently. The features of what it could do, but on the way that having the product actually made me feel. I felt connected to that type of mom, and I wanted to be her neighbor, essentially. And I happened to just get a product that was also great. Now, this isn't an accident. Listen to the Nest Manifesto. We love home. It's the best place in the world. But not everything inside our homes is lovable. There are things that beep at us, fail without warning, keep us in the dark. There are things we've learned to ignore, but we think they should do more. Nest is focused on making simple, human, delightful things. That's how we're creating a thoughtful home. A home that takes care of the people inside of it and the world around it. Notice how there's not one mention about the product, the tech, the features, the buttons, nothing. That's because they understand that their people want something more from a home experience, more than they want a fancy new tech gadget. They want to feel cared for, a part of something, and they want to be that mom, floating around the best place in the world, as they call it. And notice how they toss in "and the world around it" at the end, because they know their target market enough to know that I care about the earth and how to sustain it and how to continue to keep it a good place to live. Another great example from my own client roster is this new brand called Alively. Now, Alively is a health and wellness subscription box for busy women. And they're looking for, as the tagline goes, permission to thrive. The box includes things like artisan teas and fancy candies, bath bombs, self-care items, nutritional supplements, tasty granola bars, and then each month comes with a free expert training in some area of wellness. Alively is a product-based business. But Shelly Robinson, the founder, is all about creating a community around the product. So she has a Facebook group and an affiliate program and daily prompts on her Facebook page to really stir up the conversation surrounding that month's topic. And she utilizes the guest experts and has them pop into the Facebook group and do lives so that the people who buy the subscription box that month can get the most value out of that free expert training. Now, Shelly's not a product seller. Shelly's a wrangler. She's a networker. She knows how to build a community, and she knows how to get to know her community in ways that are valuable for them. But it's all surrounding this idea of buying into the subscription box. Not simply to sell the product, but to cultivate the well-rounded community around the product. And people who already know and like and trust her, and so then buying is really a no-brainer for her community. Because of this, making sales on this product is very easy, and she sells out every single month. But she doesn't have to ever sell boxes. She never has to have that salesy phone call with someone and tell them why they need the box. She simply has to sell the idea of the community, namely being a part of the cool ladies club who care about wellness, and showing women through education from her guest experts that wellness is important to them or is important to her and should be a priority for them. So I want you to think about the relevant community building parts of your brand. Or if you don't have one in mind, what type of community would you like to create? What can you use as a connecting piece that will reach your market in new ways? How can you think outside the box and actually dive into what makes your community need your product? So the big idea here is to pull the relevant parts of your business out into your branding and connect your community to those things. Tom Peters said it well: regardless of age, regardless of position, regardless of the business we happen to be in, all of us need to understand the importance of branding. We are all CEOs of our own companies, me incorporated. To be in business today, our most important job is to be head marketer for the brand called you. You see, Gen Z doesn't want brands and more products and more companies. They want people who care about them and want to make their life better. They want to know you and what about the core of you connects with the core of them. Now we'll talk a little bit more about how we actually accomplish this at the end, but let's dive into what it looks like to make those connections. How do you make a connection between your community and your brand? When I first started branding for entrepreneurs, one of the patterns I saw over and over again, and still see to this day, is that entrepreneurs, and especially solopreneurs, choose colors and fonts and brand elements that they like. But they feel like they're missing something and they don't like how their brand comes out. It's because they're missing half of the equation. They're missing the part where their brand actually reaches and connects to their audience. And so that's what each of our projects are focused on within our agency, is to create that bridge between coaching client, product and consumer, and brand and influencer. We do this because it's the way that Gen Z is shaping consumer culture. So let's talk about the bridge. This is an illustration that I use with every single one of my clients, and it's often a topic in the workshops that I host. I want you to imagine with me, and you can close your eyes if you want to, but you don't have to. But I want you to picture that you and each of your clients are different islands in a chain. You either need to get to them or make it easy for them to come to you. That's where a transaction happens. So that's the goal, right? To actually make that connection. But first things first, if you have no idea which island you need to get to, then how in the world will you know which direction to start building your bridge? If you've taken one marketing class, you know that it's the first step, identifying your target market. Who can you help? What problem can you solve? If you haven't had a marketing class yet, let me break it down. Your product or service is meant for one person. It should fit like a glove for that person, and they should be telling you, oh my gosh, it feels like you're reading my mind. How do you know that I need this? If they don't already know that they need you or what you're selling, after a few glances on your site or on a chat with you, they should know. Also, side note, this person should actually have the money or be able to come up with the money to invest in your thing or hire you. So demographics do play a part, but not the whole part. Basically, your target market is where their greatest need meets your natural solution. So this is the person that you talk to in all of your copy and all your branding and every piece of material. This one person, this one island, that's where you're going. And if you're worried that this person doesn't exist, they do. I always tell my clients, if there's a market for pillows with Nicolas Cage's face on it, there's a market for what you offer. And yes, there really is places to buy pillows with Nicolas Cage's face on it. There is a niche for you. Basically, there's a very specific market you should be focusing on to reach with your product or service. And you should be going after them and the island they're on with purpose and determination. So let's get him off there. Back to my bridge. So now you know who you're trying to get to. So what now? Now it's time to draw up a blueprint. And a mistake I see with a lot of entrepreneurs and people who have a product and they're really excited is that they start building the bridge before they know where they're going, or before they actually build a blueprint and know how to build a steady connection between them and their clients. So how are you going to build the bridge is the next step. You know where you're going. It's time to start drawing your blueprint. So is it going to be a truss bridge? It's going to be a suspension bridge, cantilever? Will it be steel, wood? What's it going to look like? What color will you paint it? All of these things are the things that we ask our clients. They're kind of the who's and the how's and the why's of branding. So you know which island you want to get to, and you're starting to put together the plans, but you have no idea if they even need you. So that's where your market research comes in. You're sending letters or smoke signals or telegrams or however you use to communicate in your little chain of islands, and you find out that they actually do want what you have. This comes in the form of surveys, one-on-one conversations, observation of your market, all of those things. Now it's time to build your bridge. This is the foundation, the root of your vision, the reason your business is alive. But nobody can see that vision inside of you until you actually start construction, right? So you have to show them. You have to build the bridge. So you start compiling data and fleshing out a marketing strategy and wondering if it's all worth it, hoping that one day you can reach the other island and make that first transaction. I remember asking my first business coach, it was 7 years ago now, I asked her, is there ever a time when everything really clicks and it feels like this is the right thing to do? And I remember I had been struggling for some time with getting consistent clients and booking consistent packages, and I just wondered if I would ever be able to do it. And she said, I'll never remember what she told me. She goes, not really, no. You don't ever get a clicking moment. But you do have small moments of victory, and you need to celebrate those. And that was wise, because that's what I've experienced and what each and every one of my clients experiences as they go through the branding process and as they start to build their business. One of my clients once described it as birthing a child. That's the process of building a business. It's very hard, it's very laborious, takes a long time, and there's a lot of insecurity in that time. But the small wins and the small moments need to be celebrated. The moments where you go, this is it, this is the client, this is the thing, I've done it, I've made it. Those moments need to be celebrated. So on your bridge, you might feel lost and unsure if you're heading in the right direction, but you have to keep building, especially if you know who you can help and how you can help them, because the world needs what you have. No one else can bring it like you can. You simply need to make the bridge a solid support between the two of you. That part was extra. So finally, back to the bridge. Your bridge is complete. You've made your first transaction. This is everything you've worked for. You've put it out into the world. You're officially a business. It's the displayed version of your values and all the cool stuff you bring to the world. And you make your first connection, a paying client or a curious consumer. The bridge connects the two of you, and that helps to keep you at the forefront of their mind, because now that's their main way of travel, right? That's what creating a brand looks like. And that's what Gen Z is longing for. They want you to put the effort into your brand that brings them back and shows them that this is something that I can do to help you. You created the conditions to buy and the space to create a community around a shared value. Building this bridge is the lifeblood of your business, especially when it comes to Gen Z. This bridge needs to be integral in your business plan from the beginning, and the goal should be to accomplish this connection through crafting a brand that connects and an experience that your client can walk on. From the first moment they come into contact with your brand, they need to feel that pull of connection. So what does this look like in brands today? It looks like brands caring and standing out above their competitors. So now let's get into the how. You cultivated a better brand by establishing 4 things. And this is what I call iceberg branding. As you guys can see, I like to use nature in my illustrations. If you don't know much about icebergs, they're giant, like ginormous, right? And we only see about 10% of them above the water when you're on the surface. And they need that other 90% to support the 10% on the top. This means that 90% of the iceberg, or your brand, is hiding under the surface. And those things have to be established to be able to support the visual part at the top. So there's 4 things we want to establish underneath the water of our iceberg. So number 1 is mission. You need to craft a clear mission. So what's the bigger picture? How do they share in that mission, and what makes them love you and all that you do and gets them on board with something that matters? This is core to your business brand. It's really why your brand exists. And if you don't know your why, ask your community. And if you don't have a community, ask the people you've naturally just helped in your life and how your interaction with them changed their lives. Rollo May said, communication leads to community, that is, to understanding, intimacy, and mutual valuing. So send out surveys, get to know your audience, have one-on-one conversations, and mutually build a mission that you can both stand on. Where is their greatest need, and what can you do to help that need? This can be clearly seen in examples like Tom's Shoes and Bombas, where there's kind of a larger cause to unite them, but it can also exist in how you talk about your brand, the language you use, and how you present your services and products. It can also be as simple as the language you use and how you talk about your products and services. Some examples being like a techie product that focuses on humanness, like Nest. They don't talk about tech, they talk about living and home. Or how Lively is product-based but focuses on the greater movement of self-care. Number 2 is values, so outlining your values. Roy Disney said, when your values are clear to you, making decisions becomes easier. So having these in line in the very beginning is really, really helpful and important. It's a special form of brand clarity when you can define your values both to yourself and to your community. So ask questions like, what does my business stand for? Why should they care? And how am I aligning to my community? An interesting outcome of defining your values is the unforeseen results that defining your values can create for you. So a year or 2 ago, decided that as a form of passive income, I wanted to launch a hand lettering course. So I launched For the Love of Lettering, and for all of the pre-sales, I created these little booklets. And these booklets have traceable letters and then free space for you to actually practice that hand lettering. And it's really good for people who have a hard time understanding the concept with the pressures and the strokes and all of the technique that goes along with hand lettering. And so I designed the course for entrepreneurs who wanted to incorporate hand lettering into their branding, because let's face it, current small businesses use too much script font, and it just gets repetitive. And so if I could figure out a way to then incorporate hand lettering into their brand that was their own hand lettering, it could be really transformative for their brand. But then something really interesting happened that I wasn't expecting. I started getting messages and emails of people using the art and making signs and putting in their brand and all of those things. But one story really stands out in my mind. A student sent me a photo of her 4-year-old daughter, and she's standing in her kitchen hallway, and she's holding it up and she's smiling, and she's got marker all over it. And she said, "My 4-year-old daughter is learning how to write in cursive because of your book." And now, I don't necessarily market to moms, but I value motherhood, and that's a part of my life. And so now I use that story to talk about the course and say that it's so easy a 4-year-old can do it, right? And that really helps connect, show that I have shared values with my community. Even if they're not all moms, they all value motherhood in some way. And so I know that when I talk about kids using my course, that our shared values are really aligned with each other, because they're focusing on bettering the lives of our children. But it's not that they would buy it for their children, but because they see that I have that value, then they're connected with me, and that helps to create a community. Number 3 is positioning. So what is positioning? The site Economic Times tells us that positioning defines where your product stands in relation to others offering similar products or services in the marketplace, as well as in the mind of the consumer. So this is what you create in your brand that makes you stand out. While your neighbor could be selling the same thing, what makes you stand out as your own product or service? I propose to you that in coming years, a brand's sense of community and authentic connection with its audience will be a huge determining factor in elevating that brand above others. So let me read that again. In coming years, a brand's sense of community and authentic connection with its audience will be a huge determining factor in elevating that brand above others. To determine this, you have to answer these type of questions. How am I presenting what I offer to the world, and how is my community accepting it? Jeff Bezos so famously said, branding is what people think of you when you're not in the room. So in other words, positioning is, are people picking up what I'm putting down? Do they understand your values and your mission, and do they want a piece of it in their life? And are they so passionate about that movement that you've created that they want to influence others to participate in that brand story too? Now, an example of utilizing community, even when it's negative, is Taylor Swift's empire that she has created. And no matter how you feel about her, she has positioned herself so expertly. She's a multimillionaire and a master marketer. She's taken even the negativity of her haters and used it to build a community that still buys CDs. Like, who still buys CDs? Taylor Swift fans do. So it begs the question, does the connection you're making with them make them actually want to buy in and invest? No matter the connotation, you have to know how to walk, talk, and show your brand in various ways so that your community understands it. And last but not least, 4. Number 4 is transformation. What's the effect that your brand has on the community around it? What does working with you or purchasing your products do for people? It's not about adding a new item to their tech list. It's not about making their lives feel like they matter more. It's about the transformation that actually takes place when they're buying your stuff and using your stuff. So clearly seen in wellness and fitness brands where there's literally before and after. This is before I use the product, this is after I use the product, there's pictures. Think about the thing that your product or service provides on the inside. So is it hope or excitement for life, or a safe home, or happy marriage, a new understanding of themselves, less stress, more energy? The list could go on. You have to determine what transformation you give people, not simply the product or service that you're selling. And then you have to sell that transformation and talk about that transformation to death until they understand. All 4 of these things are necessary to have a brand that connects with Gen Z. Mission, values, positioning, and transformation. To connect well with your community, you have to build that bridge that connects you and your community and continue to cultivate it. So what now? What should you do with all this information? I know it's a lot of information, so let's break it down with the few minutes that we have left. Let's talk about one thing that you can do today to implement this concept. Really, this comes down to serving your customers and clients. You can't really serve someone in a way that's effective for them if you don't know them, and you don't listen to them. You don't know what they desire and know their dreams and goals. So the first step, if you haven't yet, is to really get to know your people on an intimate level. The next step I want you to think about, based on the answer to the first question, is what would make them feel connected to my brand? And what community can I create for them that they're going to long for? What community do they already long for? And how can I continue to cultivate that? So a few ideas on how you can serve your community as Gen Z continues to grow. Social media influencers and brand ambassadors are a great way to build reputation among Gen Z. Like I said, they prefer real people over celebrities, so brand ambassadors are a great thing to do. Attractive affiliate programs, this gives them the power to influence. So it's not only that you are telling them this is a great product, you should share about it, but they're actually incentivized to do it. Facebook groups or other online forums are great as well because you can be a quick win deliverer. So it's not necessarily about, I have all these people in this group, therefore I can sell to them, but it's about showing them, here's my product or here's a piece of my product, here's a quick win so that you can continue to move forward in this area, and then they'll come back to you when they want more. Bonuses, delightfully surprise your clients and this can be done in a lot of different ways. One brand that comes to mind when I think of being delightfully surprised is the brand Boll and Branch, and they're a fair trade sheet company or home decor company, and they're known for their sheets. Their sheets are $200 for one set, and I remember we invested in them, and I was like, that was so much money for a pair of sheets. And when we got it, it came in this box that was hard, and shaped, and it had a magnet, and you popped it open. There's a satin ribbon, and all these little extra goodies in there that they sent, and that created a delightful surprise. And so I love that brand. Regardless of how great the sheets are, which they are, I was delightfully surprised by them, and I saw that they cared about me as a customer. And then number 4 is collaboration. So utilizing your own community to provide value. Something that we see a lot in the online space is that there's the hashtag community over competition, and brands are moving this way in that they're utilizing the strengths of multiple brands in their industry to help the clients with the same issue or overcome the same problem. And so instead of separating ourselves out and not connecting, we're actually collaborating among the same types of people in the same types of industry. If you can serve the next generation in the ways that are unique to them, understanding that at the basis of all they need right now is a thriving community, then your brand will never be the same and it will stand out above its competitors. In closing, I want to share a story of a recent experience I had with a client. I was chatting with them about updating their brand, and I remember hopping on the phone to kind of flesh out details, right? Usually these calls consist of, here's what the package comes with, here's the price, all the things. But she started out by telling me all the reasons that she wanted to work with me, and she continued to tell me all the reasons she wanted to work with me. She even said things like, you're in my head, and you're reading my mind, and I need you, and all these things. And she didn't know any of the details of the project or the itemized list of features or anything like that. Just like Nest, we don't know the features of that thing, we just want it because I want to be that mom. And she felt the connection with me, even though this was the first time we had hopped on the phone. We had seen each other a couple times in Facebook groups, but she wanted whatever I was offering, and she didn't really care what it was. She basically spent the whole call selling me on her. And that's because she understood the core of my brand and what I offered to people and the transformation that I carried through for my clients, and she just wanted in, and she didn't really care what that looked like. So I understand my clients because I'm in their world, and the vision I have for entrepreneurs to wield brands that they're excited about is contagious to those type of people. So it's this kind of kindred connection that's vital to weave into businesses today. People are done with fake and posed and perfect, especially Gen Z. They see right through it. They want authentic community from a place that says, I understand you and what your problem is, and I can help you with that problem. They want handshakes and Skype calls and in-person communication, and brands that speak their language and understand where they're at. They want to feel a part of something bigger than themselves, something that brings them joy and gives them a reason to wake up in the morning. People are waking up to life, and maybe you know this because you're starting your own business, and you want to pursue things that matter. My goal for my own business and all of you is that we'd have the privilege to be one of the many things that they're excited to wake up to. If there's one thing you remember from today, it's this. Your brand will only flourish and thrive when you cultivate a connection between your core and your customer. Thanks. Now, we have some time for Q&A. If you guys have any questions, I would love to answer them. So feel free to raise your hand. If not, yeah, so interesting question. It's really like a gradient, and like I said, they're all really young right now, so we're only getting like minimal stats from that. So basically, the difference is Gen Z knew life without tech and without the internet and without computers. Millennials knew it without technology, and so they're so immersed in the tech that they're seeing the need for the community that millennials had when they were children, but then so Gen Z they're more adept at seeing through that kind of tech and needing that community and craving that even more. Yeah. So I've had a few clients come to me with that, and so basically, yeah, they're wanting that like specific customer service and that branded client experience I was talking about. And so, yes, that's a trend we're seeing. And so as far as like your brand structure goes and what you're offering for packages and products, the option for customization is good, and being able to like to have the wording in your brand that they understand that you're there to serve them and you're there to customize for them. Yeah. Oh, to build a brand. Oh, okay. So my packages, is that what you're asking? Yeah, so my packages start at $3,900, but it really varies. For corporate branding, that can range anywhere from $10K to $50K, depending on the complexity. Yeah, so that's interesting. And something we've seen lately with Facebook groups specifically is that they've gotten too big. And then people don't interact, and it's not as effective, and people don't feel valued. So yeah, they've done it so that like they break out those groups. They have smaller groups, and like I said, Gen Z really values the in-person communication. And so if you're building some sort of movement, figure out a way to make it local also, and have the corporate overhang, the overarching idea, and then have the local chapters that kind of break out from there. Does that answer your question? Yeah. So I mostly work with female entrepreneurs. Most of them are moms. Most of them are in the coaching industry. So they work with, they have programs and courses and different resources and that type of thing. I've also worked in corporate, so I have a couple different corporate projects going on right now, mostly in-house stuff. So I'm working on workbooks and sales playbooks and all kinds of just in-house construction type work. And then I often will work with startups in like the very beginning phases when they're trying to figure out like, how do I talk to my customers? What is my name going to be? What's my tagline going to be? All of that kind of structure and brand strategy that happens. I work with clients in that aspect too. But my bread and butter really is the female coaches right now who have products across the platforms, and they need a cohesive brand story across all of those things. It would depend on who the textbook was for, and I would make it exciting because engineering can be really tedious. I would make it gender neutral. I would make it, I would have lots of imagery that helped to explain the concepts and that type of thing. And I would have, I don't know, I would have the concepts like displayed in a really easy to understand way and laid out, and not just, textbooks are very full of text, obviously. And so I would try to incorporate as much visually as possible, because visual learning can help bolster up just the text learning. Like, would this be a branding textbook that you, is just your own, like a branded textbook that you just created not underneath any other thing. I don't know. It would depend. We need to get on a phone call. Yeah, no, it would depend, because it would depend on what your goal was with the textbook. I mean, if it would be a standard, then we'd obviously go very professional and clean. But if it was something that was like an extracurricular or something that they were learning outside of the classroom, then that would be a different story. Yeah, so you're actually in a really good place because you know your peers. Whether or not you're like-minded with them in that they'd buy your product. Obviously, we're not always our ideal clients, right? But you're in a good place because you have access to that realm of people. So I would survey. I would ask a lot of questions. I would get in with different influencers within your community that are popular online or have a good following here or whatever it is, and learn from them like how they've done it in the past. Because we're seeing social influencers do better than some like corporate brands on social media, and so they know what they're doing and they're able to adapt really quickly. So you're in a good place. So I would continue to kind of research your market and your peer group. I get this question a lot, and it honestly depends on like what you can invest in at the moment, because building a product takes cash also, and building a brand takes cash. So you want to figure out the thing that's going to make you the money the fastest. So if you have a product and you know you can sell the product, and you know it's already something that will fly off the shelves, then don't focus on branding right now. But if you have no idea how you're going to put the product out there and actually brand for your market, then you need to invest in some positioning and branding first. Yeah, so my own experience, I'm in a lot of affiliate programs. And so there's companies you can go with that will manage all of that for you, all the tech side and that type of thing. But basically, you want to be able to create a program that's incentivizing them to sell your product, to talk about your product. And so through that, you have the program and you have the tech set up. But you also need to have the education in place where they know how to do it, where they have the resources to be able to do it. So, I mean, when I'm an affiliate for a program that doesn't give me any resources, I don't have time to sit and make imagery for it or share text about it. Like, I need the copyable swipe file that I can go in and, like, this is the new product coming out. Here's all the information about it. Here's the transformation it offers you, and I can just go in and schedule that into my social media.
Can you recommend any good, like, technology?
Gumroad is pretty good.
Okay.
And then what is the other one? Oh, Thrivecart. That one's pretty good too. Yeah. Yeah. I am not an ads person. I hired that out because it's not my thing. But yes, videos do better on networks right now, but networks change so quickly. I mean, Facebook just had a whole overhaul, and now we're not seeing business pages if they're tagged or if they have a link to a business page. So you have to make sure that you're on top of that. And like I said, that's not my expertise. But video is great because they can see your face and that kind of interaction they like. It catches them quicker than just an image does. So yeah, video. Facebook Lives do really well with the algorithm. So that's even better if you can have the video directly from the network. But yeah, not my expertise, and it's something that's a pain point for me, so I definitely hired that out. Yes. Yeah, start building community as soon as possible. And I love the quote, never be the smartest person in the room. So get around people who've done it before, who've done similar things, who have more expertise than you, and start to build that kind of inner circle for yourself. And then they will help you network as well. So coaching programs are great. Investing in some sort of like community membership fee, whatever it is. Like get with people who are better than you, or not better than you, but are more experienced than you and are less experienced than you, because that kind of network is one that grows more. Else? Okay, awesome. You guys are dismissed. If you'd like to come up and chat with me afterwards, I'd love to meet you. I also have bookmarks here. I have a book coming out at the end of the year that is kind of all about this topic. It's called The Core of Your Brand, and it will be out probably in October. So if you want a bookmark, you can get on the pre-launch list for that and hear about that first. Thank you guys for coming. This was so much fun.